see.
I'm sorry, we're live, we're on YouTube, and we're recording. And so I'm going to start the meeting with Borough Property first, if everyone's okay with that. Mr. Thielak, are you fine?
Can't hear it.
Yes, sir. Go ahead, Steve.
Okay. For Borough Property for January 5th, 2021, Happy New Year. I have just 3 items just to quickly mention. Outstanding item is just a list of reminders. The middle one is that long-term reminder about the $14,000. We're actually using that at the main park. And I believe Jim Thielecker said he'd mention that later on during his report. Cameras, we're still waiting on cost estimates at the Rec Lodge. Actually, the Rec Lodge we have. We're still waiting on them to get equipment. And Public Works, we're still waiting on a cost estimate. So a lot of that stuff is pending. I'll just keep this on here until we get everything resolved. And then finally, Recreation Board membership. When we talk about ops and policy later, there's you'll see a list of different board possible board seats that are up. I know we have one on rec that is not, that has actually been missing for a while. And we have an alternate on rec that was an unofficial alternate at the time, but now we can move them up officially. That's Chris Mamikos. And there is an open slot for him to take. So if council's okay, we could do that in either January or February when we do everybody else. It's up to you. But there is a slot open right now on rec. So however you want to proceed, it would require a council vote.
Yeah, that sounds good, Steve. Did you officially get Matt's resignation?
Never did, but every time I talk to somebody on the board, they tell me he has resigned.
Yeah,
So I don't know, and that's the seat I'm talking about.
yeah, exactly.
So
Yeah.
Chris would move up to just finish Matt's term. I don't know how long he has. I forget. I think it's 2 or 3 years.
Yeah, that sounds good. I was
So
just curious.
do you want to vote in this month then?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. So sorry, I keep switching between screens here and I mute myself. I'll mark a note on my notes to put a vote on the January 20th meeting date. I have nothing else to report unless somebody has questions for me.
Nope. Sounds good, Steve. 2's rec board items. They haven't had their meeting yet for the month, so I don't have anything yet on that. While I'm here, though, because it's kind of a recreation type thing, it's where we talked about it in the very beginning, was the holiday decorating contest. I just wanted to say that went off very well, it seemed. The first year doing it, a couple hiccups, but I think we kind of figured things out even more so for next year. I just want to thank you, Steve, Angelo. Obviously, he's on here. Thank him and Annie and Frank, the mayor, for all the hard work everybody did in getting that accomplished. Really appreciate it.
I did the least of all the hard work, just so you know. So Annie and everybody else, you guys all did a better job than I did.
Annie and Angelo definitely were the two key players in making this happen. So we really appreciate it. That's all I have for that. Thank you. The engineers report, Dave.
Thank you. First item, the CITF grant for the pool area. The plans for the electrical upgrades are in progress and will be advertised for bid later this month. We met with the electrician up there the other day and got things finalized. So we'll have the specs ready. It's supposed to be ready by Thursday.
So Dave, the county approved that. I didn't know that they had.
Yes,
Did I?
the county approved using the remaining funds for the electrical work that would allow us in the future to put in an air conditioning system if council decides to go through with that. It accomplishes another goal. There's some electrical upgrades that are needed there anyway. The breaker box is actually a fuse box in the lodge part upstairs and the breaker box. And the service coming in from the pool underground into the building, that's going to be the most expensive item. That needs replaced, and Duquesne Light has told us that. So that's going to be an improvement, whether we put the AC in or not. And I'll coordinate with you, Steve, as far as a bid opening when we want to do that. Work is continuing on the roof replacement at the volunteer fire department and also at the pavilion parks in the park. They did not work today. They've been working as weather permits. They hope to be done by the end of the month with both projects. But again, it's weather dependent. If we have days like today where it's icy and slippery, they're not getting up on the roof. But assuming they can, it will be done by the end of the month, if not shortly thereafter. And the last item is just a reminder from last month. We will include the resurfacing of the old tennis court at Cook Park to convert to a pickleball court when we bid our 2021 paving project.
Can I just add one thing to that? The only thing I would say is before you actually go out for bid or whatever you're doing on that, let's make sure we decide on all the things that were uncertain at the time. Is it one
Right.
court, two, et cetera,
Right, yeah.
When do we have to know that by?
Well, under my public works report, I'm going to be announcing that for next month, I hope to have a list of streets to pave. Right after that, we will start putting the specs together. So I would say next month, if we can get an answer by next month on whether you want, well, we have to resurface the whole court. I don't think you can resurface part of it without doing the whole thing. The question is, do you want 2 pickleball courts, or do you want pickleball and 1 basketball? Or I don't think if you do 1 pickleball, I don't think there's enough room left for a street hockey.
Okay. But no matter what, we're resurfacing the whole thing anyways, no matter what we decide.
We're resurfacing the whole thing, yeah. So the only thing that we would
Okay.
need to know is whether we're going to have 2 pickleballs or 1, and whether to take the basketball out.
Yeah, but we don't specifically need that for the paving bidding. So no matter
We
what.
wouldn't have to. We
Yeah,
wouldn't have
okay.
to. We could. The line painting could be done outside the. I mean, it's going to be a subcontractor anyway.
Yeah.
Paving companies don't do line striping, so that could be done.
So we don't
at a
have
later
to.
date.
We don't have to have the details ironed out yet, because no matter what, we're doing the whole thing.
That's correct. That's
Okay.
correct.
Sounds good, Dave. Thank you.
Can I ask a question? I think we should keep it flexible, like pickleball and basketball, keep the basketball courts there. And if there's space, even street hockey, just have different lines, different colors painted on the thing so people can use it for anything.
I agree. Basketball is a very easy sport for kids to play, girls and boys, and it keeps them occupied. So I think you should have combination, basketball being one of them.
You're muted, Patty.
Do we have time for the rec board to give us specific recommendations on that? I thought they had started to, but I don't know if they ever finalized their recommendation.
No, nothing on that, because they haven't had a meeting yet through the holidays. That's why I was hoping to talk to them
Yeah,
and see, because I mean, the basketball court that is there, we don't think gets used at all. And we
Yeah.
don't think the old tennis courts don't get used because, the condition they've been in, no one's been using them. So that's kind of, talk to them, see what they thought. I want to talk to Frank too, see what he thought, because he brought this up originally too. And then, we'll bring the ideas back and go from there. Sorry, Billy, you had something.
No, you're good. I agree with Patty. I think it needs to be thrown back to the rec board for their recommendations. But I think you hit a key there. That basketball court has hardly been used. I actually honestly think that in the 30 years that I grew up a street away, I think more tennis or kickball or anything else was played on those courts than basketball. I think basketball is really used mainly at our main parks. It's a little bit larger and a little bit more, I don't know, I guess you want to say a little bit more regulation size. So I would recommend that we put 2 pickleball in here. I know that Frank would agree with me because he was the one that brought this up, but him and I have seen this on Nextdoor on a basically daily basis. I mean, in the summertime, there have been questions asked by numerous residents of the borough in regards to the pickleball courts. So I think that transitioning this from basketball to pickleball, I think, is the best option for the borough as a whole going forward. So that would be my recommendation. And obviously, let's see what the rec board recommends as well. But that's where I'm at.
Sounds good. Thank you. Anybody have anything else on that? All right, if we're good, I'll move to the foreman's report. My dad's here with me. Hang on. Good, you're talking.
Hi. The only couple things I have is the Avenue Park, the main playground structure. The part of it is wooden, and some of it is plastic and metal. But the main supports, well, most of it's wood actually. But the main supports that go down in the ground are starting to rot. It is not a safety issue yet, but it's going to need replaced. I'd say, you know, by this time next year, we should be definitely doing something with it. We got 2 estimates that would fit in there in the area that it's made for. One was a larger structure for $40,000, and that's removing the old and installing the new by us, by the Public Works crew. And then $30,000 for a smaller replacement. Now that was only one company. We can get some more bids out there, but it's something just to put on your attention screen here. The main park over the winter here, we don't even know when it happened. I mean, we check this regularly, but the climbing wall that was over near the woods at Forest Hills Park, near the soccer field, it collapsed totally. We've gotten rid of it. It was rotted. So and I don't know whether you folks want to replace it with anything. The last thing is the park shelter roofs. Like Dave said, they're working on them. That was like 13,000, I think, something was the bid. And Steve, correct me if I'm wrong, we had like 14.5 or
14.4.
14.4. And I would suggest the remainder of the money just go and use it for 5-bar in the springtime. I think we're allowed to do that, right, Steve?
Yeah, DCNR agreed that would be an appropriate way to handle it.
So that's all I have. Does anybody have any questions?
Anybody have anything else? And I think that's it. If nobody has anything else for borough property,
No, I haven't.
done.
Okay, give me a few seconds and we'll go to Public Works. Mr. Gorel, I'm good if you are.
Ready whenever you are, Steve.
Okay, manager's update, just a couple of things to mention. The first one might take the longest, although it's not intensely long here, but the Route 30 PennDOT project, if you recall when they were here at our meeting, and I believe that was when we were doing things in person, the culvert that's going to go in off the main park across the road to, where is that? Yeah, across the road to the I'm sorry, eastbound side, had 3 trees they need to take down. This is at the entrance to the park off of Ardmore Boulevard, that small entrance down near where the batting cages are, batting cage is for the field, the large field there. And there are 3 trees. I put their pictures attached to your agenda that PennDOT had given us. And they had asked us at the time, if we were to give them the exact type, size, location for replacement trees, they would include those in the project. I'm assuming they want to know if the borough still wants them to do that. I'm assuming you do. We never got any feedback though on what kind anybody wanted to put there, type, size, location. I know the only caution I had was from our foreman, who had suggested that we don't want to put any trees on the Ardmore side of the wall, but these trees are on the field side of the wall. So those three would be replaced. And again, you can look in your agenda at the end, there's an attachment. There's also a diagram that PennDOT gave us. So they want to put that in their ad. They'd like to know no later than Thursday, the 21st. Their ad date is set for February 4th. I have no idea what kind of trees they are right now. This is where I really miss an arborist like Ted. Maybe you folks know, but I don't know if you can even tell from the picture there. But in any case, they're willing to put 3 in. Anybody have any suggestions? If I assume you still want to go that direction.
Yeah, Patty, I was going to defer this to you. And if we can't come up with something this week, maybe by next week at the latest, if you wanted to review and take a look at it, Patty.
I was thinking, did we ask the Tree and Shrub Commission for their input?
Well, they don't meet this month and you don't have a lot of time now.
Okay, all right. Well, I will talk to the Tree Pittsburgh people and get a recommendation. Is the 20th of January soon enough at our borough meeting, or do we need it by next week?
We should probably do it by next week, right,
Okay.
Steve?
All right.
Well, he told me no later than the 21st, which is the day after our meeting. I
Well,
can email him and see if that's okay.
I'll get to the Tree City Pittsburgh and hope they call me back in the next day or so and send an email to everybody on their recommendation. Will that be all right?
Yeah, Patty, that's fine with me. I mean, I think that whatever we put on that side, I wouldn't mind keeping something of the left structured tree in that. So
Yeah,
it's
I
a
mean,
little bit lower,
If it
a
were
little bit lower of a shade tree.
right, if it were to my decision alone, I would want something like a serviceberry or a spice bush or a crabapple, flowering crabapple, something that would provide not huge trees, but something that would provide flowers at different seasons and also wildlife habitat, and also that grow pretty quick. So I think, and you don't want them too small because the deer will just shred them to pieces otherwise. I know we've lost 2 trees this fall because of the deer rubbing antlers and just ruining the bark completely. So let me get a recommendation from Tree Pittsburgh. I'm pretty sure I can get through to them pretty quickly, and I'll send a note around.
Thank you.
Mr. Gore, I'll email the gentleman from PennDOT too to let him know what we're doing and make sure that's still timely. And if there's any problems, I'll let you know. Otherwise, we should be good to know by the 20th. That probably is fine. I can then let him know the next morning.
Okay.
The second item I have, second of 2, is an update from Three Rivers Wet Weather. As you know, they are the organization, just in case anybody's watching this, that it was put together between Alcoasand and the health department to assist the Alcoasand communities with the sanitary storm sewer issue and all the consent decrees and things like that. They're getting a new executive director at the end of the month, and that man is Dave Montz. He's the current manager in Green Tree Borough. Very good guy, excellent manager. And when you go to these Three Rivers Wet Weather meetings, it's almost like he's already been working for them because he seems like he really knows just about everything going on with the sanitary sewer system, Alcoasand, and all the stuff, the legal stuff and everything. Plus he has a degree, he has an engineering degree, civil engineering degree. So he's going to be taking over, and I know him personally. He's excellent. So I just want to let you know that. Unless anybody has any questions or comments for me, I have nothing else to report.
All right. Dave, engineers report.
Thank you. The plans and specifications are complete for the MS4 detention pond project behind the park and ride lot. Whenever council authorizes, we will advertise for bids. Just as a reminder, we have a PA Small Water and Sewer grant for $150,000 for the project that was approved earlier this year. That grant is good for 2 years. The total cost is estimated to $238,000. So the project must be completed by March 2023 per our MS4 permit. The borough will be responsible for $88,000. Did council want to authorize that at this month's meeting or February?
Steve, this would be a question for you and Patty in regards to finances for this year. Is this something we want to tackle this year? And if so, Dave, I don't really have a problem putting it on this month or next month as far as bids.
Well, I mean, this is coming out of corrective action, Dave, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Yeah, so I mean, I think we budgeted for this, if I'm not mistaken, didn't we?
We did.
Yeah, so I don't see a problem with doing this if council's okay with it.
And the corrective action budget, I think it is in the budget for that.
Okay, then, Dave, if we want to put it on this month, we can put it on this month or next month. Doesn't matter to me.
That's strictly up to council. If you want to, whatever month you authorize us to advertise, we'll proceed.
Is there an advantage to doing it one month versus another as far as you're concerned?
Not really. I would say this time of year is a good time to bid it, whether it's January, February, or March, but I wouldn't bid it in the summer. You'll get higher prices because contractors are busy.
Well, why don't we just do it then if you're okay with that, Mr. Goral?
Yeah, I'm fine with putting it on for January then, Steve.
Okay, I'll have it on the agenda.
Okay, thank you. As we mentioned earlier, PennDOT's doing the culvert project on Arbor Boulevard. I did hear actually from, I think, Jim Thelecker. I think he brought that up. That didn't you tell me that PennDOT said they may be deferring that culvert project another year?
Yeah, when I talked to the superintendent of the project from this past year, he wasn't sure, Dave, but he said it may happen. They may not do the culverts or the paving until the following year because of money.
Yeah. So we'll keep you informed as we find out what's going on with that, but we're ready on our end.
Can I add one thing? It just occurred to me. I forgot to mention this, Mr. Goral, but under my report, the state is not just with PennDOT, but also elsewhere hurting for money. I know that if you remember, we brought up the idea of the recycling equipment grant. We call it a 902 grant. They just rescinded that program for indefinitely because they're strapped for cash. So Jim and I were going to look at that and have a recommendation for you tonight, but we decided not to, obviously, since we don't know when they're going to put the money back in.
Yeah, that was in regards to A, another leaf collector, or B, a new street sweeper, correct?
Yes.
Okay. All right. That's understandable. And what, Dave, you just have one more item?
Yes, just informational. The 2021 paving project, Jim and I will be preparing a list of streets to be paved, we're recommending to be paved for 2021 for the February Public Works Committee meeting. We know of two things already. Council had already expressed that since the Water Authority is replacing a line on Cascade, that we would want to include that and the pickleball court at Cook Park. I do have a question about Cascade. We can go one of two ways with that. The Water Authority has under contract a paving company that's qualified to pave streets. That's what they do. And their prices are very good because it's system-wide. It's a multi-year contract. So if council prefers, we could have the Water Authority pave the street where the water line went in and then invoice the borough for half the width. And they would pick up the other half. The alternative would be for us to include it in our borough-wide paving project, and then we would in turn invoice the Water Authority for half of their work. I believe if you're interested in getting it done sooner rather than later, the water line is almost complete. They're working on fire hydrants. They've already tied in all the service connections to the houses, the new lines in place. They're getting ready to put the binder in the trench, which will happen either way. It's just a matter of whether we want to have the Water Authority try to pave it, whatever weather permits, or do we want to wait for our project? If you want it done sooner, I would say you should go with the Water Authority's paver because they will likely jump on it if we see an upcoming week, likely in January, but if there's an upcoming week sometime, January, February, March, where we have above 45-degree temperatures and the contractor's available, they can go out and pave it, and it'll be done earlier than if we put it in with our project. Of course, it depends on the weather. It depends what kind of the rest of the winter is like. So really, that's up to you guys if which way you'd rather go. It's probably not much difference cost-wise either way. I know the bid that the Water Authority has is for about $15 a square yard. That's a little lower than what we normally get because it's a much larger project. You know, Wilkinsburg Penn's a pretty big authority and services, I don't know how many, 20-some communities. So they are in charge of paving anytime they have a leak throughout their system. So they have naturally a better price than just our little $200,000 paving project. But it might be a little cheaper to go the Water Authority route, and it might be a little sooner. But if you want to put it under your borough program, we can do that too. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Steve, this could still be paid out of our street paving budget, correct?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Okay, so I honestly think, Dave, with the traffic count on that street and the length of that street in our borough, I would say that we should defer to the Water Authority's street paving program and just let them handle it now, so we can get it out of the way. Plus, it looks like it and sounds like it's cheaper, so I wouldn't mind piggybacking off of them.
Yeah, it should be a little cheaper. Okay, if that's the case, then I'll notify the authority and their contractor that whenever they're done with the work, which will be in the next week or two, we'll notify them that as soon as that weather permits, that they can go ahead and proceed with that.
Nobody had any comments on that, correct?
Okay, that's all I have.
All right, Jim.
Yeah, I just have a couple things. I got the list of projects for January. The second thing is in the capital improvements plan, we had in the budget there to replace truck number 72, which is a two-door four-wheel drive pickup truck with a snowplow. The truck that we have now is a 2008. It has about 94,000 miles on it. It's starting to cause us some problems. So, and there's definitely a slowdown when we order trucks right now because of the COVID, and I guess the factories were all shut down and they were making protective equipment and stuff. So I'd like to get approval to start the process. I could, if you say okay, I'll have a pretty accurate price for the next committee meeting.
I think that's fine with me, Jim. I don't know if anyone else has any objections to that, but I believe that's okay.
Yeah, I'd like to see a price on it, see what it comes to.
Yeah, Bill, we have $67,000 budgeted, but it's going to be definitely under that.
Okay.
Well, that's budgeted over 5 years, lease purchase, just to be clear.
Right. And plus, once we get the new truck in service, we will sell the old one on municipal bid, and we'll get a few dollars for it.
Okay, thank you.
That's it.
Donnell walkway issue. Steve, can we put this on for next week under committee of the whole, so that we could talk to Corbel in regards to this to see if I believe that he was the last one that we spoke to in regards to touching base on the property owner and getting in contact with them.
That's probably a good idea anyway, because Dave and I understand that they've approached us about possibly expanding the number of units that are there. That's correct, right, Dave? You heard that too, right?
Yes.
So it probably wouldn't be a bad idea. I think Mr. Corbel would need to weigh in on that, what's appropriate and all that. I think he's already looked at some paperwork on that, so I'll stick that under his report.
Thank you. Any other issues? Okay, that concludes Public Works.
Okay, I need a few seconds. We'll go to ops.
If Frank is missing a link to Zoom, can I just forward mine, or does he need a specific one?
If you give me an extra 20 seconds, I can get him, I can
Okay.
send it to him again.
I will let him know.
Mr. Tomasic, did you want me to stay on for public safety? No? Okay.
Well, I don't know if Marcus is going to want to discuss that item that you did the traffic study on. That's up to him.
I thought
Marcus?
we solved that last month.
Marcus, do you need him at all?
I don't think so.
Okay.
Okay.
Actually, I do. I have one question about Fillmore, of what we have to do for that if you want to do changing, if you want to do a traffic, if what you have to do, like to change it to a right turn only. Do you have to have a traffic study for that?
For which street?
Going from Fillmore onto Ardmore.
Oh, Philbert, that was already done. That was already done. I did a traffic study. Give me a second, I can find it. I have it here, I'm pretty sure.
I think I sent that update to everybody in an email about it. I want to say a month ago, right? Isn't that when
Yeah,
you sent
that was
it
done in 2017. And it is justified. It is justified to restrict that to no left turn coming out of Fillmore.
Does anybody, if anybody needs it again, if you don't have it, do me a favor, please, and email me tomorrow or later, and I will be happy to send that to you. Mr. Gillen did send it to me, I think in December, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
Maybe even before that, I don't know. So I can send it to you if you just let me know. But please email me and request it just so I don't forget. Thank you.
The only reason that I brought that up was because we know that we have to do a traffic study. And this was brought up several years ago. I know I did it under public safety, and Dave did the traffic study. So if you're going to want to do something like this, everybody has to get on board, because you know that's going to be a difficult thing to do unless you're all have on the same page in order to get something like that done. So it's a matter of, do you think that that's going to be necessary to do? Well, the traffic study is already done, so we don't have to go backwards on that. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Lawrence, I'm set up to go on ops and policy if you're okay.
Yep.
Okay, ops and policy for January 5th. It looks like I have a lot of stuff here, but really most of it's for you to read. So let me go over it real quick. There's 4 items, I believe, only, and I should be able to get that done in about 6 or 7 minutes, I would hope, unless you have a lot of questions. First thing is Zoom. I wanted to let you know that we did set up a secondary account, and the rec board used theirs, used it yesterday. This will be good for all borough committees. I did do a quick draft video to show people how to set up a webinar using Zoom, actually, which was really neat, being able to use Zoom to do my own training video. It's not in great shape necessarily. I'd like to redo it, but in any case, it's about a half an hour long, and nobody has used it so far. I did send it to the rec board, but I don't. They set it up differently. They're meeting yesterday, and I don't have any feedback from them yet as to whether that was good or not. I'm trying to encourage people to do it as a webinar, because that gives them more control. They do it as a meeting. My understanding anyway is that it doesn't give you control, or it can give you a chance to be hacked a little bit more. I don't know if that's true or not. I'm just going off of
Yes,
very
it
little
is.
bit of training. Is it? Okay, thanks. So
Yeah.
I'm trying to encourage them to do it as a webinar, and that's what I show them in this video. And I'll be passing that on to the other committees as well. I just gave it to rec board to look at, to see if I can get some feedback from them. Hopefully they will give me some feedback. I don't know. That's item A. Anybody have any questions about that?
No.
Okay, you folks could all also use the second account now too for Borough Business, setting up a Zoom for Borough Business. The only question, of course, we have is we just need to make sure that everything's scheduled so that nobody conflicts with somebody else. But right now, that shouldn't happen with any of the committees anyway, the 6 committees. And civil service could even use it. I don't count them usually because they meet so infrequently. but they could use it.
And
as
it is
well.
important to remember that we're under the sunshine law, so we be very careful what we do on these.
Yeah, and well, I'll tell you, that's really difficult getting these boards to understand that. You know, some of them were reluctant to give me minutes, or they're reluctant to invite the public in or to put a public comment in. That's part of the little training video that I did. I do have one slide where I remind them about the sunshine law requirements. So any support you can give me with the 6 committees, if you're affiliated with any of them, planning, zoning, rec, tree and shrub, I'm missing environmental and neighborhood crime, be good to mention to them that they have to follow the Sunshine Act. They're an appointed board.
Do you think that's something that should go out in a formal written memo from us?
Well, I've sent it out. I've sent it out before in a formal memo.
Well, then you did your best, and that's good.
Yeah, I've sent that several times. If anybody wants to see it, let me know. I'll show you. But I've given them reminders and memos on that with detail, including, if I remember correctly, there's information. Anytime there's a new board member, I give them a sheet outlining basic functions of that board, as well as highlights of what a board member should be responsible for. And the Sunshine Act is included in that. So,
Thank you.
You're welcome. They should know how to do that. Item B, banner community. If you recall, last year was the first time we were named a banner community under the Allegheny League of Municipalities. Usually they require some update, but they have not done anything or said anything this year. And I'm sure it's because of the pandemic and how difficult it would be, you know, to do every single thing, especially when there's a lot of unknowns, including the biggest unknown for ALOM probably being whether or not they can even do their conference in April. I haven't heard yes or no on that. I think that they're leaning no, but I haven't heard a definitive answer on that yet. So in any case, there are a couple of other things that we can do just to make sure we maintain some of that. And one of them, for example, Local Government Academy is one of those organizations that's identified by ALOM as a key training organization that we should belong to. And they're doing a subscription, a very inexpensive subscription service, which allows you access to their library and also gives you discount on some of their training. So I may take advantage of that unless there's some objection. I'm looking into that, but I think it's like $200 a year, something like that. And that would keep us in the loop as far as the requirements to maintain that banner community designation, at least partly, if not entirely. Any questions or comments on that?
I do have a comment on that. Steve, I had hoped that we would have an opportunity to do a presentation at the ALOM conference, but it was canceled, and I was then told that we need to do it way in advance. So if you hear anything about planning for any conference they have, whether they do it virtually or in person, I think we should do a presentation about, you know, our comprehensive plan, our climate plan. We're one of only 5 in this area that did a climate plan. And I would like to put that on a spotlight if we can.
Last I looked at their website, they had nothing showing. So as soon as we hear something, I'll let somebody know, everybody know. Any other questions about that? Okay, item C. This is a long one, but again, most of it's here for you to read. You had asked me by January of this year to give you some idea on citizen engagement platforms that we might be able to use. And so far I've investigated 3. There's a couple more I'd like to investigate. Let me say this as a sidebar first, because ICMA has recently, among other things they're doing, they're keeping people in the loop about stuff. And that's been one of the topics that's come up with a number of different managers. People are asking, what are you using to keep your citizens engaged? So I want to look into see what they have. But what I did so far, and this is very brief, I gave you 3 examples so far of 3 different organizations, platforms that I'm investigating: CityBot, Savvy Citizen, and SwiftReach, which is now owned by a company called Rave. We already have SwiftReach. We use, as you know, for reverse 911 calls and occasion for public service announcements. But the other 2 we don't. I only have some pricing on the one right now, CityBot, which I attached to your agenda. I also attached a brief brochure from SwiftReach. My point, though, first is what I really need to know, and I have 3 questions here that I just want to, I'm not going to ask you for answers right now, but I want you to think about, and if possible, email myself or possibly email Mr. Lawrence with them. I'd like to know specifically how you want to make use of this. Right now, for example, I've mentioned here that we're using Twitter, and that's a free service. And only 271 people have bothered to sign up for that. So I'm not exactly sure why we've been trying to do that, use that as a citizen engagement tool, and they really haven't done that well. Now, I did get some statistics from Angelo on the website, and I put them on your agenda here so you can see as of last year how many visitors we had, how many total visits, et cetera, how many page views. So that's been pretty successful. And SwiftReach, we use that, as I mentioned, for public service announcements, but mainly the chief uses that for emergency announcements. So that's one thing I'd like you to think about and give me some answers in an email, not now. I'm going to put this back on the agenda in February. The second thing I'd like to know is who's going to control the platform. The one thing I've said before in the past, which has been a compliment to Forest Hills, is that we have a very, I keep using Upper St. Clair as an example. We have a very Upper St. Clair attitude on a very shoestring budget with a lot of things we do. But in this case, that's negative because I'm not exactly sure who's going to use this platform. You realize right now, for example, I'm the one doing Twitter, the manager. Okay, I'm also working with Angelo on the website. Now, thank God for Angelo. He's doing a terrific job on that website and he keeps it going. Very minimal cost. We give him a little bit of a stipend, but he didn't even want that. And it's very, very minimal. SwiftReach, the chief uses mainly, the mayor does occasionally, but I would like to know, and again, don't want the answer now, who is going to control use of this platform? My concern, for example, is who has the time? And not only that, how are you going to control it? And the third thing is, I'd like to know, I assume this is a no, but is there a belief that a citizen engagement service will eliminate the Tree City Times? And I hope that's a no, because we use that for other things, even though they're not timely or topical. And I give you some examples of that on the agenda. I'm pointing there because that's where my agenda is on this screen. Sorry. Anyway, so I would really appreciate you considering what I have written here. And again, I will put this on the February agenda, but if you would give some feedback to myself and Mr. Lawrence, I would really appreciate that because it helps to know what you're exactly looking for. They all do different things. And there are others out there that do similar things, but I'm not aware of them yet. I'm still investigating. So it would help if I knew and I could cut out some people. For example, SwiftReach does more than just what we do, but it's all oriented toward emergency management, not oriented towards citizen engagement necessarily. So they probably won't work, although I want to talk to them. That's an example. So if you could give me some feedback, I'd appreciate it. Mr. Lawrence, I don't know if you want to add anything to that.
Yeah, if I could take a couple minutes here to talk about this. I appreciate that you and the chief have been investigating all these platforms, but I think it's very important. I'm just going to state unequivocally, I would like to hear from everyone on the council, the mayor, and everyone else in the borough building who's working for us. One, what are the outreach platforms they think are useful? Twitter, email, carrier pigeon, drone, whatever. But we need to know, first of all, what platforms you personally think are useful. We need that input. And then second, and this is a very important thing, we can't decide on platform until we find out from everyone what is the messaging you think is necessary. So for instance, Cindy Sims is going to say to us, oh, I'd love to reach out to the community about the pool schedule. Whereas the chief of police is going to want to say, I want to reach out to the community about XYZ. And the mayor will want to talk about, some of the plans for holiday events or whatever. We need to have a collection of all those perceived needs. And then honestly, if you would send them to me to say, Steve, some work, I will collate that list, and then we can take that list and say, all right, given this, what platforms meet that need. And then the other thing is, I mentioned to Steve today, one of the things we have to work on are two issues. One is platform control, which is a very serious issue. Who is in control of these things? And second, most importantly, the second is, legally, there are a lot of nice things we'd like to do to reach out to the community that probably will get us in legal trouble. And I talked to Steve today about the California Privacy Act that's been passed, and that is, they have not promulgated rules about that yet from the Attorney General of California, but that law is being replicated across the country. And, in 5 years, I don't want to have purchased a platform that creates us legal trouble. So we'd like to know what everyone wants to do, and then also fold that in with what's not wise to do in terms of messaging. So I would propose that everyone send me a list, and I'll send out an email asking you for this, both what platforms you think are useful and what messaging you personally think is useful, because all of you have different messaging goals. And if we don't combine those together, we are not going to make a good choice on a platform.
If I could add to that too, Mr. Lawrence, I know in the past when I've attended conferences, I know I've said this before, the attorneys almost all say avoid social media. Now, I think they're talking more Facebook, Twitter, that kind of thing, Instagram. So, but I don't know how some of these operate yet to know, and you can get in the middle of stuff with people depending on how you're controlling it too. So that's another reason to know.
Yeah, that's a major policy issue,
yeah.
Because we just can't let everyone who has a committee send out messaging, because that's just a legal hell.
Yeah, and
because inevitably someone's going to do something.
At the same time,
unwise.
realize that some of the people who are using these things have a dedicated tech department or a dedicated person who is doing a bunch of different things like this, like videoing of their meetings and things like that. This can be very expensive, very time consuming, very costly. And that's an issue to be aware of as well.
Yeah, I think as we move forward, once we make a decision, I think as a council, we will have to make a policy decision about who has access to anything. Because if someone makes a boo-boo, we're all going to get in trouble for that.
Yeah. So the last, I'll keep that on the agenda for next month. I'll just repeat probably everything I have here unless I learn something new.
Could I make a quick comment, Jack?
Yeah, please, sir.
I agree with what your direction here. I would just like to say, when we did go with the Swift Reach, one of the things that we did try to do was to control it and give specific people like Steve and the chief and the mayor control over that. And it was specifically to get messages out. So, I don't know if you can have more than one of these things or not. I really don't. I haven't studied this very much, but I can just say that, as you said, specific reasons behind using them, what you want to use them for, is very important to understand if you're going to go down the path of any other one. Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
I would just add too, you could have multiple things like Swift Reach and something else, but I wouldn't go much beyond two things, for example. No. Yeah.
Again, we can't decide what platform to pick until we know why we want to use a platform. So again, we'll ask all the community, everyone to send their thoughts.
Hey, Jack, can I just say one thing? I think one of the problems and frustrations that we've had has been having difficulty receiving feedback from our citizenry, especially during this COVID time. I know we tried mailing out surveys. We get very low rate of return back, especially with businesses. And people say, well, it doesn't feel like we're really communicating with people. I think it should be important that whatever platform we pick should have a two-way capability so that we can send out an inquiry and get responses back from people.
Okay.
I know that right now we have a very small fraction of our population email addresses in hand in the borough. We've tried collecting them at events and compiling them. I don't know where they go. I don't know whose job it is to enter all of those. So there's a data entry aspect of this that we should probably address. And it's possible we could get an intern to do that. I will have an.
Well, again, that's the issue, Patty, we have to address with the control of the emails. We get into a legal hassle. We have to be very careful. So again, I think your point is well taken. We need a two-way, you would like a two-way street, and I would encourage you, when you send us your thoughts, bring that point up about a two-way street. And that'd be very helpful.
And I ask that you just read my comments too, if you would, please. I think it's very important that people realize that when things are given to staff like this, this is an extra thing you're throwing on their plate that they were not doing. And now people wonder, well, what happened to this? Well, what happened to this is they're sending out bills, and that's more important right now than, whatever else somebody wants. So you really need to think this through as to how you're doing it.
We're getting ahead of ourselves again. We need to understand what we want to do and then figure out whether it can be done legally, appropriately, sensibly, and then we'll find a platform.
Right. The last item I have is just a reminder of the number of committee vacancies we have. This is the same list I gave you back in December. I mentioned under borough property that we already have one person who is an unofficial alternate on rec board that we're going to move up to a known rec board vacancy, which is shown on your list as Matt Rodriguez. But there are other people. I'm going to compile a list for the February meeting, because in February is when you usually appoint board members. I'll compile a list of all the people who have volunteered, anybody who is asked to be reappointed, and what vacancies we have available. But there's almost always some vacancy somewhere, just so you're aware of that. You can take a look at that list on your own. I don't have anything to add to my report unless somebody has an additional question for me.
Anyone else? I'll just add one thing if no one else has anything. No? Okay. I just want to bring up something. This is not something to discuss. It's just a factual issue. There's this ongoing question about the recycling system and the use of glass in the recycling. Under the contract with Waste Management, they are required to take glass. There has been some discussion that they are not actually using the glass, they're throwing it out. That may or may not be true on any given day. But under the contract, they're required to take glass, and I really encourage you to, when constituents talk to you, to tell them that yes, they are still accepting glass. You can tell them that in another year that may change, and we're not happy about that, but there's nothing Forest Hills alone can do about that, because that's a wide question. But I think we have to tell citizens, yes, they are still allowed to put glass in recycling, and not to open the discussion, because what I'm finding is people are hearing from other communities where Waste Management has renegotiated recycling to refuse glass. Citizens in Forest Hills are getting confused, and I'm hearing just, oh, I'm so confused, I'm not going to recycle anymore. And that's the last thing we want done. As for recycling glass, right now, I believe that Waste Management is making use of the glass. That could change at any moment, but it's not going in the trash. I believe it was for a while, but that's their decision, not ours. And one of the things that you want to understand as people talk to you about this is, here's the deal. We've done single waste recycling for almost 30 years here and used glass. It breaks and it does get in and contaminate other recyclables. That was never a complaint of Waste Management until they could no longer make money from recycling glass. Then they started complaining about that. So you need to tell constituents who complain, say, no, that's not a new problem. That's an old problem, and it's not going to go away. So I would encourage you to tell people, continue putting your recycling in, your glass in the recycling. And then it may change in a year, and we'll deal with that. I've talked to them about it, about marketing plans and how we'll deal with that if we have to do it. But what we don't want is people get so confused that they stop recycling entirely, and that's the big concern. All right. Yes, glass recycling is not a Forest Hills issue. It's a county issue. It's a state issue. It's an international issue. But we need to just cool it with our residents and tell them keep recycling glass, put the glass into the recycling bin. And so that's all I had to say on that.
I would like to add something to this discussion, if I may.
Yes.
The Connect communities have done 2 years of studies with the Graduate School of Public and International Affairs interns, and also with a skills team from Covestro. And they've issued a fairly comprehensive report, which I'm happy to share with you. I may have already shared it, but I can send it around again in case you didn't see it. That gives some regional recommendations about the whole recycling and waste management issue. Secondly, as a result of that study, there is a subcommittee of Connect under the Environment and Economic Development Working Group that is looking at all of the contracts for all of the waste management handling throughout the region, and looking at a model contract to offer to communities so that we can consolidate our asks to the company or to the haulers, and see if we can identify some best practices that we would all like to pursue and kind of take control of the contracting process by saying all of the communities in this region want these things, and therefore put the onus on the management, waste management and Republic, and I think there's another one, to come up and meet.
It's primarily waste management right now.
Right, but if you're in the South Hills, it isn't. But we're trying to identify the common needs that we have and what our wishes are for recycling services and waste management services, that we will then have a majority of the communities in the area using the same contract requests, so that we can get better leverage rather than one town at a time trying to negotiate independently. And I think there should be some cost savings from that approach as well. So we should have that in hand well before the time we need to do our negotiation at the end of this year.
Yeah, thank you. I just want to encourage everyone to discourage constituents from not recycling because they're so confused about glass. And that's, I think, where we are right now. So other than that, I don't have anything to add. Thanks.
Under Ops and Policy, I would like to just report that we have 2 interns who will be attached to the Environment Advisory Council. One working on information and outreach to residents regarding the short-term goals of the climate plan, mainly the no-cost, low-cost actions, and the other working on the business district, eco-district and efficiency goals for the business community. He is the master's level student that you've met before. The other one is Marissa Stakely. They're both from Chatham. And we're not.
Are these paid interns or unpaid interns?
You're doing them for credit. We're not paying them.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Anybody else?
Okay, if no one else, I need.
Sounds like we're done.
Give me a few seconds and we'll go to public safety. Mr. Oberdinger, I'm good to start if you're okay. Okay, the only thing I have is just a reminder about outstanding items. And the one I was going to bring up, you've already talked about. That's the Fillmore-Ardmore intersection and the existing traffic study that Dave Gilliland already did. Again, I remind you, please email me if you don't have it, and I will send you a copy as soon as I can. I know he just sent that to me. But I have nothing else to report other than just that reminder. You're muted, Marcus.
Sorry, both of those items should be staying at the bottom of the agenda because I will actually talk about Fillmore a little bit later. I guess I can do it now. I did some research with Chuck and I asked him what are like our hotspots, and he pretty much pointed out to me all the intersection on Ardmore which have traffic lights are actually way more accident prone than the ones without, like Fillmore. So I think, Chuck, correct me if I'm wrong, probably people running like trying to squeeze in the red light and then hitting someone because the lights are actually bad. I think they're causing some accidents. Is that correct?
I think the traffic flow has something to do with that too. I mean, when you're talking about an Ardmore and Braddock or a Morrow and Ardmore, you're talking about a higher volume of traffic.
Oh, I
those,
see.
those,
Okay.
those intersections. But I will say that, for example, a red light will create accidents only because somebody will stop for the light and the person behind them may not. And then we have an accident. So
I see.
Whereas on a Fillmore situation, you would have a stop sign. Everybody knows you're going to have to stop. You know you're moving onto a highway with high traffic. So it's a little different with a traffic light as compared to a stop sign.
Okay. So we talked earlier.
That's a good perception, though. That's a good thing to point out. Thank you.
I know. I was surprised that all those like Marion and Ardmore, Braddock, those are way higher than Fillmore and Ardmore. So, but what I wanted to discuss with the committee, I think we need some citizens' involvement in that. And I was proposing to put like some orange flyers on some light poles on Fillmore, people that we are planning or that we are considering doing right turn only onto Ardmore, and if people can reply with comments via email or some phone. So I would wonder if we should do that. Because I don't think we want to do something against the citizens who are living there. I just would like to get their feedback. What does the committee think about that?
Yeah, I would be judicious before moving on that decision. It's the best way I'd put it.
All right. So you agree with having some citizens' involvement?
I think that's going to be extraordinarily necessary, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because they're the ones that have to deal with it every day. I don't drive on Fillmore. They do.
I know. Bill, what do you think? Bill,
I mean, obviously living on here, I mean, I would obviously object to that. I mean, because making it right turn only at all times of the day is a little crazy. I mean, but the problem is though, I mean, it's just another sign that's going to go up and no one's going to abide by it. And Chuck and I have already talked about this on numerous occasions for whether it's a stop sign, a no right turn, no left turn, a do not enter. It doesn't matter what it is. If no one's there and they don't think anyone's watching, they're going to do it. And I mean, we can't have cops everywhere. So, I mean, I think we're wasting our time with that. I mean, I understand where you're coming from. I understand it's very dangerous to cross between the morning rush hour time of 8 to 10 and 4 to 6 or whatever you want to call it. You know, when we're not on a COVID/pandemic time frame, and the traffic is normal on Route 30. But I honestly thought that this was more of a turning issue out of Duncan, or that's where I thought it at least started. And I only go back to that issue is because I was almost hit again. So I mean, I don't know what it's going to take, and I hope to God it's not me that gets hit or anyone for that matter. But it's getting to be so ridiculous now with people turning out of the entrance of Duncan that I can't even get my truck off of Ardmore. And I am a contractor, so I'm constantly going to and from my house to my rental properties around the borough. I mean, I'm constantly driving, and it's honestly getting to be so scary down there. And there something needs to be done before something serious happens. And I thought that that's what this started as, but I guess we're getting a little derailed right now with the whole left turn on the Ardmore. And I guess that's where I'd like to point it back to. For the
I mean,
simple
that
fact
was
of I live at the top of this hill. So
Yeah.
yes, according to Jack's comment, I have to deal with this on a daily basis. So this is where I live. This is where I turn onto 4 to 6 to 8 times a day. So when I'm exiting off of Ardmore, coming from Aldi's and the plaza down there, I mean, it is very dangerous for me to make that right turn, because I honestly don't know if there's going to be a car turning out of there, whether it's the entrance or the exit, and I can't make it past them and get the rear end of my truck off of Ardmore when there's 18-wheelers that are flying over the speed limit. So that is the matter at hand, and I don't know what we need to do, but something needs to be done with this.
Maybe we should keep it more neutral and just say, ask for feedback, just collect feedback about that intersection and get citizens' feedback.
I think you can get citizen feedback and it'll be fine, but none of us are traffic experts. Ardmore Boulevard is a dangerous place from the start to finish, not just that place. So I would rely very heavily on traffic experts that could give us the wisdom of what really makes a difference, because there's a lot of perception about what's dangerous and what is actually the most dangerous intersection. And I'm not disregarding anyone's comment, but I think we should rely on people who really know this stuff. And I'm not disregarding anyone's comment. Absolutely, because I agree. Frankly, all of Route 30 is a mess.
But you heard,
so
you had Dave.
I would just push back to get community feedback if you so wish, but I rely very much on traffic experts who really understand where the danger is. So that's it. And other than that, I think we'll just go round and round on this. So we probably shouldn't keep talking about it.
I mean, you heard Dave Gillen saying traffic study, it's justified based on the traffic study. Patty, you want to?
Yeah, and that's fine. That's fine. So
I did want to mention, we do have this WalkWorks grant, and the consultant is going to be looking at pedestrian and bicycle and non-motorized safety on the sidewalks and on the intersections on Ardmore as part of this study. I think any ammunition that we can accumulate to urge the state DOT to lower the speed limit in our business district, and I would say that goes from Yost all the way up to Bryn Mawr, I think we should amass that information and slow the traffic down. That's the only thing that's going to help the safety situation. And, if we need to put directional signs or things in addition to that, I think we can do that. But it's clearly the traffic moving too quickly for the narrowness of the sidewalks and for the frequency of intersections that we have down there. When the light changes, it's like off to the races down there. And it's really pretty terrifying. If you're trying to cross the street and the light changes, heaven help you if you haven't quite made it. I think I would like to elevate that. And if any of you have a chance to talk to our consultants, McMahon Associates, will be interviewing, I think, everybody in regard to this. And so please do put this on the agenda of something we want to elevate as a concern, because the speed on Ardmore Boulevard is just killing our town. And I've said this to the DOT many times, and I will do so again.
Chuck, do you have an opinion?
I believe that what Patty just described there is one of the avenues to use to maybe get a little leverage with the state, because again, we only have a certain amount of ability to do what we can on our streets. We can't do a whole lot with a state road, and they again have the final decision on that. If you have some other experts and some other people who can come up with some other information to support the lowering of, let's say, the speed limit. I know that the state had lowered it once there, but they only lowered it for that small section.
Yeah.
So if you had some additional help from maybe another expert, maybe then we might be able to have a little more to push with to get what you would rather have as far as the speed limit.
Right. So Patty, when does it start again? You're mute.
We received the grant at the end of September, at the end of November. So they're just starting, and they'll be finished in July or August.
Maybe we should wait for that. But like I said, like Chuck's statistics, Ardmore Fillmore is actually, I think it was like the number 6 or 7 intersection. There are more worse intersections than that one. So I think Braddock Ardmore, I think, was the worst. So I guess we should maybe just wait until that study and see what they say.
Well, he will be doing a site visit sometime in the next month, I hope. And I know we're going to be talking to them again to kind of get the project moving forward. And I will encourage him to interview everybody and talk about what the issues are. Certainly, Chief Williams, we will be wanting to interview your officers and yourself about, strategic locations in town that they need to pay attention to. So I'm hoping that you can schedule some time to do that with them.
Yes.
Mhm.
Right. So does the committee is okay with it if we do some kind of flyer on the light post and just neutral, just seeking feedback? What can we do? Maybe some mentioning some options, but just looking for feedback. Okay, I will work with Steve to get that done. So next was utilities. I looked at the bills. It's pretty much standard stuff. I'm okay with all those VFD bills. Any, Chuck and Bill, do you have any?
No problems.
Okay.
Oh, everything's fine.
Next, the EMS report. We don't have that. VFD reports, they put the annual report at the agenda. I looked at it, looks pretty much normal. And I think chief's report. So Chuck, your turn.
Okay, all I wanted to mention was you remember our rush to move through the ability to get these new radios, and I have to tell you that it's good we did that because they're already coming in, and that just shows you that we really did need to move quickly on that. I know that if anybody felt uncomfortable about having to spend that amount of money for the equipment and not having a lot of time to think of it, this shows why we had to do that. This that the fire department had and this piggyback we were able to do, it happened pretty quickly, and the equipment's already coming in. So I just wanted to let you know that we did have to move on that, and I appreciate your help to get this done because this is something that probably saved a substantial amount of money in the long run.
I think it's always a good idea to save money. Thank you. Next, we have home safety. Bill requested some time to talk about home safety, and he will not only do it on the committee, he also will, I think he wrote an article for Tree City Times about that. So Bill, floor is yours.
Yeah, being in the times that we are, I guess you have a lot of time on your hands. And one of the things that I got into over the holidays in terms of discussions and so on was safety in the home. And on this particular time, I'd like to just focus on fire prevention. And, I was going back and thinking about whenever I was teaching chemistry, every year I had to go into the lab with 4 or 5 different classes and point out all of the things that they should be aware of in terms of safety in the lab. We had the eye wash, obviously, stick your head down in there and turn it on, the shower for chemicals. Then I would be pointing out the fire. So I think a lot of people have these, but I'm not so sure that they've ever used one, all right, or would be comfortable using it because it is a little bit involved. This one, of course, would be mounted to a wall. And I used to have to show the kids that, okay, well, this is what you have to do. You have to get the snap off. You have to pull it out. You have to pull the ring. You have to aim. All right. And it's not a simple thing. And nobody ever actually has any type of training in doing this. But it's always good to have it around just in case. One of the people that I was talking to said, if you're going to show this at all, make sure that you tell people that they should check the arrow here and make sure it's always in the green area. Okay, that it's charged. One person told me that he said, I'm glad we're talking about this because I'm going to have to go home and check my fire extinguisher down in my garage because he says, I can't remember the last time I looked at it. So these are good things to have to help put out fires. But There was one other thing that I had to show the students that was in the lab was fire prevention, fire safety item, and that was a fire blanket. I think that this is something that maybe we could promote within the borough as an extra caution for fire safety. The ones that I had in the lab were in a big tube. You had to pull a clasp and then it would basically come down and you could pull it out. The key thing about that was that you didn't have to worry about pulling any pins, aiming it, and hitting it the right spot and so on. So that when it came out, basically it was unfolded or you could very quickly shake it. And I think that this would be a good item that we could promote within the borough for people in terms of their houses, because all you have to do in a kitchen fire especially is take it and put it on top of the fire and turn the heat out. And basically it suffocates the fire. One neat thing about this is that you can basically put this in a location that you think is beneficial to you being able to access it. In that you could basically have this folded up and you could have it right on your counter or in a drawer. I have one that hangs from a door. They do have a hook. So you could put that on there and straps that could pull it out as well. So anyway, this is my little presentation here to promote fire safety amongst the residents in the borough of Forest Hills. And like I said, this might be something that the fire department could get in on and say, hey, we're going to promote fire safety, check your fire extinguishers. Maybe consider getting an additional item for fire protection, especially in the kitchen. As I said, I'm thinking about this and going, wow, if you have to put something out quick, this might be the ticket. Very simple to use, easily accessible. So I just wanted to throw in for the new year my focus here on safety within the borough. And I thank you very much, Mr. Erbaldinger. And there will be a short item in the Tree City Times that references this. Oh, by the way, you can buy these online. You can buy them at stores, different sizes, different prices, and so on. Again, thank you.
Thanks, Bill. I actually just looked up in the statistic of the fire department. Cooking fires is like the second cause of fires. Like building fire is first with 21 calls, and then cooking fires is 11. It's next. So
nationwide, it's over 50% of the fires occur within the kitchen. So that's the highest number.
Thank you, Bill. Tom, do you have anything to say about that? You're mute.
No, thanks for that, Bill. No, we do tons of fire prevention programs every year. We have articles in the Tree City Times, typically mentioning fire prevention as well. I believe at least a couple of them we try to key in on. But yeah, no, appreciate the support. It's one of the most important things we can put out there for people.
And that brings up
with not much to do. Start thinking of these things.
And that just brings up again community contact.
Yeah, that's exactly yeah. There would be something to occasionally.
Yeah, so again, that could be something that we could include in aggregating all the possible uses of a community interactive platform, and this is a very good example of where it can be valuable. So thank you.
Thank you.
Any other public safety items? No, I think we're done with our meeting.
Okay, if nobody has anything else, I'm going to end the meeting then for everybody. Don't forget, next Tuesday is a Zoom meeting, and as far as I know, it is followed by an exec session in person up here.